Welcome to the Tech Report podcast, where we help businesses survive, thrive, and create value.
Welcome, everyone, to the Tech Report, the podcast that is all about helping businesses survive, thrive, and create value, especially in our trying environment today. I'm your host, Brad Stoller. Well, I'm not sure about you, but I've noticed a lot of official-looking emails coming to me lately from accounts such as Amazon, Netflix, credit card companies, and many others. The theme seems to be the same. There is an alert of potential fraud, suspicious activity, or just simply they need to verify my information before I can receive my free upgrade. So they all seem to want the same thing. Click this link and log in to verify something. So while many people really are catching on that this is not a good idea to click on all these email links, what most people don't realize is that these data breaches out there are putting out an alarming number of or amount of personal data that can and will be used against you at some point in the future. So today I've asked cybersecurity expert Dovell Bonnett to join us and explain how cyber criminals are stepping up their games and what your business can do to protect against the never-ending battle of cyber hackers. So Dovell has been involved with cybersecurity for over 25 years, goes fast, I guess, and has a focus on password security. So his security has actually been involved in the Olympics, and he is the inventor of the ID badges used by Microsoft. So for all you business owners out there, I have a feeling you are about to get a lesson on passwords and ID security that may make the difference of keeping your clients and employees' data safe and secure. So, Dovell, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Brad. It's a great pleasure to be on your fantastic podcast.
Well, I don't know if it's fantastic or not, but we try and help educate people and keep them safe, if you will. So Dovell, I know you've really done some great things in the cybersecurity world that most of us just simply have never heard of or really given it much thought. But before we go too deep, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about how you got started in the world of cybersecurity.
Well, I've been in the security industry for a long time. My first job was working at defense contractor as an engineer where I have a top secret clearance. And then I got into smart cards. And then it was back in 1999 when a division of Motorola called Indala that did the physical access control ID badges. And they had a customer that had gotten a security breach and they lost the source code to their most prestigious product.
Ouch.
And yeah. And they wanted a single badge that got them into the building as well as onto their computers. Now, we referred to that as logical access. I now call it cyber access control, but still. And so I was called in. I did a presentation. I had 1 hour, and halfway through the presentation, the VP who hired me stood up, interrupted me, and said, "You're fired." And then he starts to laugh. I know. And then he starts to laugh hysterically. Yeah, I must have been doing a good job.
Yes. I've had those.
And so then then he starts to laugh. He passes me a piece of paper and says, "This is your salary. You're our new director." And the company, as you rightfully said, was Microsoft. They lost the source code to Windows 98. And so if you ever see a Microsoft ID badge, I'm the one that created that for them.
Well, I think we've all probably seen those or something similar to that. So that's a pretty good story. But I've had those presentations too, where I do remember halfway through the guy said it, but I think I really was fired. I did not get a contract. So, well, Dovell, we hear a lot about data breaches for those big companies all the time. So most businesses aren't the billion in sales a year companies. Most are just simply small businesses with maybe 10, maybe 100 employees. So why is cybersecurity so important for all businesses?
Well, first of all, the large corporations do have the power to, with the IT staff, and they have the money to protect it. But how did the hackers get into those companies. It's through the small businesses, because the small businesses don't have the IT staff to go and really go through their network to go and protect them.
Right.
And employees will do things, and they're not doing it to be malicious. They're not trying to hurt the company. They're trying to be helpful. And they click onto those emails, and they clicked onto
Yep.
those attachments, and they open up those files and stuff. And this is what happens. And hackers know that the small businesses don't have the security in place. So about 80% of all hacks start by going after the small to medium-sized businesses.
Wow,
So they can get in.
80%. So it's
Yeah.
really not just all the big businesses, is it?
No, and you know about Target and how then they got hacked and what all happened there. But what people really don't realize is, how did Target initially get hacked? They didn't go after them. There's a term HVAC, the heating and ventilation cooling system. So it was a small company that had the software programs that monitor all of the heating and ventilations for the Target stores. So the hackers went into that company, hacked in, injected malware into their software without them knowing it, and then that HVAC company uploaded their new version of their product into the Target database and servers, and that's how they got hacked in. Now,
Wow.
Target did a kind of a stupid thing too, where they put the same code and same application to monitor their building as where the credit card information is stored. So
Oops.
the hackers, once they're in there, they were in.
I bet that's changed.
Yeah.
Ouch. Well, it really kind of seems like that hackers really can figure out, well, first of all, they're crafty. So, and they really can figure out passwords pretty easily. So why even have them? I mean, why aren't our passwords secure?
Well, do you know what the number one password has been for the last 6 years?
I've heard it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or something like that.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They
Oh,
don't
I'm
go to
sorry.
a
I was
7.
more secure than the rest of them.
Yeah. And and they'll use their dog's name, they'll use their birthdays and all of that. So it's not that passwords are insecure, it's how they are managed and who manages them, meaning the employee. Because they've got, 150 different accounts that they have to remember. So they're going to have to come up with things that they know. And we don't have a password or a password security problem. We've got a password management problem. And that's really what needs to be fixed. And it's on both sides, the IT side as well as on the employee side. So it's not that they're really the hackers aren't really all that super clever. It's that the passwords are really dumb.
So it's really that the users like me are the dummies out there, not so much the hackers. But so we need to do a little better job of that too, is what you're saying. So
Yes.
gotcha. Well, a lot of business owners out there are thinking that, hey, their business, this doesn't apply to them. They're not going to be affected. That's the other business that this happens to, not theirs. I hear that a lot. So what do you say to those business owners that have that attitude, and what's really preventing them from making their businesses more secure?
Well, as we said earlier, they're the ones the hackers are targeting. They're the ones that don't have the security in place. They're not updating their software. They're not updating and patching their operating system. They're bringing in components that they don't know how to properly configure. And a security breach now, according to one analyst, is about $8-point-something million per incident.
Ouch.
And that same report is stating that 70% of IT people expect to have 5 or more breaches a year.
Oh my.
So if you're a small company, can you survive, even if their numbers are off by 50%? Can you survive having a $4 million penalty and fee and fine with the government, with lawyers, with the customers that you're going to incur? Can you afford losing 30% of your business? Can you afford your customers dropping you and going someplace else? Can you afford all of the updates now that you have to do? So this is where it really comes down to the cost of a cybersecurity breach.
Well, you're starting to make me feel a little bit queasy in my stomach just thinking about it. So, but I'm sure other business owners might be thinking the same as I do. But so it really sounds like cyber criminals are always coming up with new ways to attack and stay one step ahead of those who are protecting our businesses. So, what mistakes are business owners and managers, what are they doing that makes them easy prey for these cybersecurity attackers?
Well, there's a couple of things that they could do to help mitigate this. And it's a lot of common sense, first of all, so you don't have to go and invest millions of dollars to implement it. One is, why don't you train the employees to look for emails and what to look for and what to click on to? Have a policy that if something doesn't look correct, allow them to call somebody and say, hey, did you really send me this email? It's something as simple as that. Um, updating all the software that we talked about, the operating systems and things like that. And one of the biggest thing is to get the employee out of the habit of generating and managing their own passwords, because that's the weakest link in all of this. Hackers will go after them so many different ways with key loggers, malware, links, but also a thing called social engineering. And are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it, but be honest, I don't exactly know what all that means. So maybe you should explain that for the dummies out there like me.
But another thing that's going on is this whole thing where employees, because they know their usernames and passwords, an attack called social engineering. And these are basically a con artist who is trying to convince you to do something. And it's very, very easy to do, where you look up and you find out that your IT person is named Joe because they're on LinkedIn and they list Joe as your
Right.
IT person. So that's how easy it is to get this information. And then so someone will call you up and say, hi, this is Sam. Joe asked me to give you a call because, well, he's been a little busy and he wanted to know, is your computer running slow? Well,
Don't
computers
they
run
all?
slow. Yeah, they run slow. And typically the person will say, yeah, it's been a real pain. And yeah, that's what we've been hearing. So tell you what, give me your username and password and let me get into your system and I'm going to clean it out for you. And people will surrender that
Wow.
information because they trust the person calling them. They don't know them. And so if you get rid of employees knowing, generating their passwords, there's nothing that they can tell this artist, this con artist, for social engineering. And if they do, or if they are asking for that, you know that, wait a minute, that's not right because we have security in place that says, I don't know this. So
Right.
who are you?
Exactly. So that sounds like it kind of leads me to my next question, because I know you and I had talked about this, but you had developed this system along with the cards that we talked about earlier, but really take that human element out of that equation for security with those cards and the card system. Tell us a little bit about how that works and what all that entails.
Okay, so the product is called PowerLog. It's a software solution that works with a lot of your existing ID badges that you already have. So it's not something where you have to go in and rip and replace everything.
Oh, good.
It's a simple card and a reader that gets plugged into the USB port. Takes about a half an hour to fully install it. And from the customer's perspective or the employee's perspective, they boot up their machine, and instead of typing in a username password, a screen comes up and says, insert your card. And so you drop your card into the reader and you type a PIN. That PIN is only saying that I know the secret to the card, nothing to do with the computer, the network, the servers, or anything. Now the server is seeing that, oh, there's a card, something I have, and the PIN was correctly entered by the employee, something it knows. So now it will go ahead and set up the and inject the username and passwords automatically into the Windows boot up. And then you can go to any server, any application, any cloud and do the exact same thing. You just double click where you want to go. And our product will first of all check that the URL, the path is the correct one. So nothing is going to be released, and it launches the application, auto injects the usernames and passwords, and the person just sits there and watches it happen. And why we've talked about computer logon is so important. The other part of it is log off that a lot of people do not understand. And that is, you don't want to leave an open node that hackers can get to. And with our system, you simply pull your card out and now it shuts you off and you're off
Gotcha.
the network. So there's a lot of different things that our product can do, but the whole point of it is so that the employee no longer knows, manages, generates, types any kind of passwords. Passwords can now be set up to the policies. They can be 20, 30, 500 characters long. They could
Oh
be
my.
changed every 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever the policy IT wants. And the user, again, doesn't care. And so our software is such that the IT person configures our software to meet their policies and not the other way around.
Gotcha. Well, that sounds like it's a lot easier for the employees. I know for me to try and keep track of 100, I don't even know how many accounts I have. I'd have to look out and see how many I have, but it's a lot. And I'm guilty, just like everybody else. Yeah, I've got a few that I use for my what I call my low level. If somebody hacks in, I don't care. There's nothing in there anyhow. But that's probably not a good attitude to have.
Right.
I was waiting for you to say, yes, you're right. That's not a good attitude
Yes.
to have.
Yeah, that's not a good attitude to have.
Okay, I feel better now.
Yeah, good.
All right, but it makes it easier for people like me and the rest of us in the world, I guess, that we need to keep secure. But man, to have a 15, 17, 20 letter password for every single account, that's just torture. So probably not going to happen.
And this is where there's two sides to this coin of security, and that is, or cybersecurity. There is the security side. You can have all the encryptions and all the fancy technology and all the use, but it's meaningless if you don't incorporate convenience. Because if it's not convenient, people like you and other employees will circumvent security for their convenience. And they have to, because they are being pressured by management to be productive, to do their jobs.
Yep.
So when IT comes up with some of their policies, they're not thinking fully through of how are those policies going to be managed.
Exactly. So, well, I know that a lot of businesses, okay, they either have, we'll say, their guy or gal in their IT department, or they outsource their IT functions to managed service providers. So do you work with their managed service providers, or just how can they implement your card system if they want to become more secure, and is it affordable?
Okay, we only sell through the managed service providers. We do not sell to end users anymore. And if we do get calls from end users, we find out where they're located. And if they have an existing service provider, then we will work with their existing provider. If they don't, we're happy to go and lead them to a couple of our current partners that we have. So we help them with that. We look at our MSPs as they are our customers, and we're here to help them to be successful. So if that means we have to get on the phone call with them and their customer to help explain it, we will do that. We will do the training. We will help with the installs, all of it. We want to take the pain away from the MSPs to be able to do what they do best. And that is, of course, putting the systems and all together. Now, our system, we start everybody off with our starter kit, that we call it. And in that, it gives the customer everything they need to run, say, a 6-person pilot, where they've got cards, they got readers, demo licenses, they get the support, everything. And they have that for 90 days to play with. And if they don't like it within that time, for whatever reason, they return it and they get their money back.
Oh my,
no
90 days.
90 days.
That's a little confidence. Yeah.
Yep. And then once they have it all up and running, they like it, and we help them with the install, there's no more install to do. They've done the heavy lifting, and that took, 30, maybe an hour to do all of that. So now it's just, okay, how many cards, how many licenses, how many readers do you need? And as I said earlier, because we build off of the existing infrastructure, if they already have the right technology in their ID badges, procs, any of these different kinds of that are out there, we can work with that. So there's no rebadging
Oh,
required.
wow.
And
So they may
so,
not have to have a huge outlay anyways.
no, we don't want to do a rip and replace. We want to leverage off of what you currently have.
Oh, wow.
There's
Okay.
there's no back-end server modifications like a lot of companies require. And so we're just trying to keep the cost down. We also do not have the cost of annual support or annual renewal fees and subscription fees that they have to go through. So that cuts down a lot of the cost, and the licenses are transferable. So if you have an environment where there's a lot of turnover of people, it could be a school where you lose a quarter of your population, or a hospital where you have people changing all the time,
Sure.
you can take those licenses and transfer them to the new employee, and you don't have to pay for that.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a got to be a big plus, I would think. Especially you mentioned hospitals, and we know medical practices, but they've been shut down the past couple months, and they hard to believe, but hospitals have been hurting a lot because of no income. So definitely makes a lot of sense. They could actually get into this for a relatively inexpensive amount, provide the security that they really need, and then not necessarily do they have to spend a lot of money to do it, which I'm sure that they would appreciate it, at least at this moment in time.
Yeah, so within about, let's say maximum 1 hour times of investment, they can stop 80% of the threats that are coming to them.
Wow, that seems to me it's kind of like a no-brainer, but that's just me. So I know we could go on and on and on with cybersecurity, and I know it's such just a monster to tackle. There's just so many paths you can go down and talk about. But how does somebody get more information about you and your system?
So you can certainly go to our website, and that's access, ACCESS hyphen dash smart.com. And we have blogs and videos and information there as to what we do. I also can be reached by LinkedIn. I'd be happy to go and connect with anybody with LinkedIn. And I'm always available for a phone call. And so just go to our website, schedule a call, half an hour call, and I'm happy to talk to you about what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? And what's the best way to do that for you?
That's awesome. So, well, once again, a special thanks to Dovell Bonnett for his dedication to help others. I really hope that business owners and managers out there will be able to maybe get a little bit more knowledgeable after this episode, and maybe more aware of the cyber threats out there, and some simple actionable steps that they can do to be more secure. It sounds like get in touch with your MSP and let them work with you on that, or your IT department, but basically get it done. So Dovell, thanks again for being with us here today.
You're quite welcome. And in concluding, passwords are secure. What's insecure is how they're managed. Let's fix it.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Dovell.
Thank you.